Okay, hello, good day, ladies and gentlemen. We're back with the continuation of the lesson that we have about neutral accent training. And today we're gonna start off with the vowel sound review. So this is the purpose of this activity is for us to be acquainted with how words are pronounced in the dictionaries. And of course, we cannot do that unless we are familiar with the pronunciation guide or the symbols that are used in the Webster's dictionary. Actually, we could have used the IPA or International Phonetics Alphabet, but for the layman or the ordinary person, it might sound quite technical. So, so I decided to just use the Mariam dictionary symbols since it is the most common application used in our cell phones. So I hope you follow along with me. These are just sample words that are to represent the sounds, but you can do a little practice from your by yourself by opening up your applications and looking for the symbols represented by those by representing the sounds of those symbols so you can practice on your own. So I'm just giving you familiarization and identification of these symbols so that you can do this by yourself. So the goal here is for you to read on your own the symbols printed there in the dictionary. The lazy way of doing that is just to click the speaker symbol alongside the word and listen to the sound. But it helps if you are familiar with the symbols as well. So let's begin. Okay, so we have this vowel sound review. Okay, so for most of us, we open dictionaries for purposes of definition. We just want to know what the word means. But don't you know that there are other uses of the dictionary? Like you can use the dictionary to check the part of speech of a word. There are 8 different parts of speech in the English language, and a word could come representing many different parts of speech. And somehow, as the part of speech is different, so also the definition and the usage of that word is also different. You can also determine, of course, for these purposes, we open the dictionary to determine the pronunciation of the word. Other than that, we also have the syllabication, how the word was divided. How many times your jaw moves represents the number of syllables in a word. Then, aside from that, we can also determine the stress of the word, of the symbol within the word. Stress is the tone, the melody of the word. So there we have 3 types of stress that will be explained later as well. We also determine the synonyms and the antonyms of the word depending on the type of dictionary that we use. So for comprehensive dictionaries, they include the synonyms and the antonyms of the word. Sometimes it would be redundant to use the same word in the same sentence. So somehow the use of synonyms are very helpful to avoid monotony within the paragraph or within the sentence. We can also determine the etymology of the word. Etymology represents the origin of the word because English in itself is not an original language. Most of its words were derived from French, Latin, and what do you call this? Greek. So usually those were the root words. We just simply added some prefixes or suffixes or infixes to formulate new words. So English as a language is a growing language. Don't you know that even some Tagalog words are already incorporated in the English language, like the word kilig or the word suki, which don't have an English equivalent. So somehow they were added to the dictionary. Even the word selfie is not an original English word. It just came out because of how people were using it. And I wouldn't be surprised if other words or expressions would even be accepted in the English dictionary later on. And also, word dictionaries also offer sample sentences so as to improve our comprehension of, and usage of the word. So, moving on. Okay, so uh, on your own, how do we read these words? Okay, so based on how you encounter the word, whether you heard it from somebody or based on your own stock knowledge and how these are sounded, probably you would be surprised to find out that you were mistaken. Okay, so because these words were pronounced as scarce, scarcity, patriot, cleanliness, garage, legislative. Actually, legislative is also acceptable. Govern, creation, tomb, affidavit, purposive, and creature. So if that sounded different from what you expect, then you might as well check the dictionary or double checking. Other words, we have model, it's not model or model. Situation, not situation. It's municipal, it's mu, it's not mu. It's determined. So usually people commit mistakes here because of the stress. They say determine, which is wrong. This is a commonly heard word, especially during student reporting. But it's determined. The stress is on the second syllable. We also have this word commonly mispronounced. It's pronunciation. We have that confusion because the verb form is pronounce. So sometimes we combine them. We say pronunciation, which is wrong. Or sometimes we say pronunciation. So we combine the ca. So we have to really separate the two sound pronunciation. So pronunciation. So that's 5 syllables. Then we have coyote. It's the I sound in the first syllable. Then we have two acceptable forms. We have administrative or administrative. So they have different stresses as well. Then we have this commonly mispronounced words as well. We have category. So the stress is on the first syllable, not category. No, so sometimes as Filipinos, we stress on the second syllable, which is wrong. Another mispronounced word is we often say thesis. No, it's wrong. It's the. It's a hard e sound, so it's thesis. Thesis. And of course, the plural is the theses. It sounded as theses. The same goes with photosynthesis or synthesis or syntheses. Then we have the sew. It's meaning it's to sew something like a sewing machine to patch up something. So it's not sue. Okay. Then we have legal. As Filipinos, we often pronounce that as legal. No, it's wrong. It's legal. And finally, we have this word. It's acceptable to say uh, vacate or vacate. So it's always vacate. Not it's actually not vacate, but it's vacate, vacation. And we have Febu. We have two acceptable forms: February or with the R, February. It's always wary. Then we have the CV is curriculum vitae or vitae, but we don't have the word vitae. So I myself was surprised to find that out in the dictionary. Then we have principle. It's the same pronunciation as PLE, principle. Then we have documentary, so the stress is on the third syllable. Then on the middle we have war. It sounded like WORE, so it's not war, it's war. And there are many other words like that. So we have warden, we have wardrobe, so it's always war, and same as thwart. Then we have appreciate. We don't say appreciate, but appreciate. We have to separate the she and the ate. Appreciate. Then we have testimony. It's wrong to say testimony. Okay, so it's more on the stress part. And we have uh, alter. So alter is the same sound as ALTER, which means to change. So they have the different spellings, but they have the same sound. Next we have the beige. So the last sound is a ZH. It's not a J sound, but a ZH sound, beige. Then I included words that begin with WH because we often mispronounce that as where. The proper way of saying that is hue. You blow the air. It's like inverting the H and the W. Where and the why and other words like that. Okay, so I does this surprise you that most of the words you're familiar with are mispronounced because of the way we hear it from others? So the best way to check is by checking on the dictionary. Okay, so these are the Merriam-Webster symbols and the sample words. So if you are at a loss, you can come back to this and check the symbols and its representative words to remind you of how it should sound. Okay, so we begin with a double dotted A. So it is sounded as ah, ah. So the technique there is to drop your jaw, say ah. Okay, and be consistent. You keep doing that. Okay, so dark. Okay, so you might as well repeat after me. Okay, heart, park, long. So even though you notice here that it's spelled by with an O sound, most of these words are confusing because they are spelled with the letter O, but they are sounded as ah. So you say it's longer, sing a song. So you have to really drop your jaw while pronouncing that. Then we have project, product, modify. So it's not modify, it's modify. And we have model, bother. So it's different from brother. Brother is a different sound from bother. So bother, you have to drop your jaw. Same with body and buddy, smart buddy with a U. So it has a different sound as well. If it's an O, then you have to drop your jaw. Same with logic, logical, option, on, turn on the lights, or the opposite, turn off the lights. So not don't sound it like a total O, but it's a combination of an O and an ah sound. Okay, so the technique again is to drop your jaw. You put your finger below your jaw and push it down. Okay, boss, office, coffee, collar, colleague, concept, copper, collection. So you notice that we are so used to reading this as Filipinos, we read this as O because we are familiar with um, only the five letters of the alphabet, which is A, E, I, O, U. And with that in mind, we always correlate O as O, but in English, it sounded more of an ah. Okay, so moving on. Now, on the other sound, we have the short A sound. It sounded as ah. Okay, so ah is sounded like a goat in that sense. It's a combination of ah and eh. So it sounded on the middle. Okay, so repeat after me. It's not as, has, or at like the way we Filipinos pronounce it. It's sounded as. Okay, so the sound of the short A is ah. Okay, so the stress is like slightly going down here. So as, and always pronounce this word as a Z, not as an S. We will have a separate lesson on that in the next lessons. But for now, get used to pronouncing that as, then has, at, can, have, and, PayPal, pack, mathematics, pattern. Okay, you can search for this poem in the internet. I just pick out the first two lines, but it's quite longer. It's a paragraph actually, but it's a really good practice on the short A sound. So it reads, the tan man sat at the bat stand, lashing a handful of practice bats. Okay, as we read further in the paragraph, you notice that sometimes we tend to go back to our old Filipino ways of pronouncing the letter A. Whenever we see the letter A, we tend to pronounce it as ah. So the tan man sat at the bat stand. So always remind yourself to pronounce it as ah. Okay, the tan man sat at the bat stand. Even if you are riding in the jeep, make it a process to make it a point to get used to pronouncing words as they are in English. Okay, so it's just a matter of building the right habits. Okay, moving on. Okay, we are now on the short E sound. The short E sound is sounded like our Filipino E. It's eh, but it comes in many different spelling varieties. So like for example, we have bear. So it's not beer brand or burr brand, it's bear brand or snow bear for that candy. And we have pear or peras. I remember when I went to the market and I asked the vendor and said, uh, "Tagpila ni ma'am, or how much is this?" He said, "Aka ng pear," you know. So I would like to correct the vendor, but somehow it might be quite embarrassing for her, so I just ignore it. But the correct pronunciation is pear. Then we have the next word is tear. So sir, that sounds wrong. Well, it depends on the meaning. If it means the watery substance falling from your eyes, that's pronounced as tear, teardrops. But if you refer to the verb meaning uh, to tear down, okay, so to rip, like a paper or like the wrapper. So that's why when you look at the cheapy wrapper, you say tear here. Okay, so that's the place where you rip the wrapper apart. Then that's why we have the expression the wear and tear of things. Okay, wear your glasses. Then we have engineer. So it's a soft E. Scarce, scarcity. So it's not scarce, but we are confused with saying that scarce because there's a word that is scarce, but it represents to the wound that has already healed. So it's a scar. Plural is scars, but it's not the same as this. This is pronounced as scarce, meaning It's it's limited. Then we have chair, fair, carry, marry, bury. So it's not bury. Actually, it's acceptable to say bury, but the most common pronunciation for that is bury. Christ died on the cross, was buried, and rose again on the third day. Then we have care, share, air, silent H, stare, and cleanliness. But if you say clean, that's a hard E, a long E sound. But if the word, it's the noun, it's cleanliness. So it's quite confusing. English is very inconsistent in terms of pronunciation. And finally, for today's lesson, we end with the long E sound. Okay, the long E sound is the technique there is to stretch your cheek muscles here, like you smile a lot. So you say fear, and you prolong it a little. Fear, real, leave, creature. So it's not creature, but creature. Squeak, believe. So now it comes with many different spelling varieties. So now it's IE, we have EA, now it's IE. Believe, relief, spill, concierge, feel, even, breathe. Oh wait, we have fever. The next one is breathe. So the last sound is like a D with a soft D sound. But if you take the E at the end of the word, so it's just breath. Okay, so but if it has an E at the end, you say breathe. So the one with an E is the verb form. The one without the E is the noun form. Okay, the next word is read as suite, like a room in a hotel. I have a suite room in a hotel. Then we have community, laundry, activities, conceive, receive, receipt, and the. That is if it is followed by a vowel like the eagle, the egg. But if it is followed by a consonant, it should be the, like the car. Okay, so that will be it for today, so that you'll be able to review each of these lessons. You can practice reading these symbols in the dictionary so that you'll get used to it. Okay, so God bless, and um, see you again for the next lesson.